To our second conversation, National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria's economy has expanded to an estimated 372.8 trillion naira in 2024. That's according to the newly released rebased GDP figures. The report further states that Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 3.13% year-on-year in real terms the first quarter of 2025. According to the reports, this marks a solid improvement from 2.27% growth recorded in Q1 of 2024 and reflects the continued resilience of the economy, underpinned by strong performances in the services and industry sectors. Mr. Oluseun Winigbinde is the co-founder and CEO of Budget. He joins me live from the United States of America for this conversation. So, Winigbinde, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, too.
All right, then. I think I should let you first. Let's do an overview of this. We waited so long for this rebased GDP figures. I know we both talked about this months ago, and we've been staying on it month after month. We've been expecting this, I think, since March, I guess, and now finally we have it now. In March, April, now we have it. What do you make first of your general overview of these figures from the NBS?
Thank you so much. I think there's a lot of respect and credibility for the work that the NBS had done. A few months ago, we were in a meeting with them where the SG met with Budget and other civil society organizations to share with us their methodology and approach. And now they are ensuring that this work passes the integrity test as much as possible. And when we looked at that work, we felt that, there was some oversight for multilateral institutions, the central bank. We believe that the CBN, the NBS was taking the right measures to ensure that the rebased figures had a lot of integrity. I know I shared my own 2 cents with them. I think the numbers we have seen, we are not surprised by it. If you compare the fact that there's been like around 40% growth in the numbers, in the nominal numbers in Naira terms, and also there's been expansion of critical elements like the telecom element, the informal sector, the creative economy. So several sectors that were not properly accounted for have been accounted for by the federal government, I'm sure, or by the NBS. I'm sure by the time we have another reason, rebasing, maybe the oil refining, which is also a big component that is emerging in our economy, will also come full stream. So this is like a step forward, let's be honest. But also, you also shows us the harsh or the painful realities of Nigeria's economy. And by the time you divide that number, around 373 trillion naira, by the prevailing exchange rate, you put you somewhere around $245 or $244 billion, which shows that we now are the 4th largest economy in the world. In Africa, a big problem that shows that certain decisions that have been made recently there's evidence is here that Nigerians are facing a very tougher period due to some serious reforms that has been engineered by this current government. But what I would say is that we need this rebasing to really properly recalibrate the economy, because I think in the last few years we've relied on maybe calculations by the IMF, by the World Bank, to say this is the state of our GDP. But I think right now we can say, okay, this is where we are right now. The GDP is at this level, and then we can now move forward at this point. The real economy has been rebased to 2019. So it's a bit difficult for you to compare what it was to what it is now. Or you can just look at what does the base year numbers, what do they look like? What is the growth in the base year number? What does that look like? And you know there will see some back calculation around growth rate, around things like that. But at the end of the day, you also see that the industry for Nigeria is weakening. Over the years, we've not been able to excite the critical factors, either power or even infrastructure, to be able to accelerate our industrial competitiveness. So I think that's shown evidently in this work. Services have exploded in some way. I still don't think agriculture is making the numbers as it should, because obviously it's clear that we could do far much better than we have currently in agriculture. Yeah.
I think I'm concerned with the fact that we are now number 4 when it comes to ratings across the African continent. At this time, we were talking about intra-African trade and Nigeria's position. That is one. But I think the devaluation and all of that also has a bit to play in all of this. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, all of it is a weapon, or it depends on how you use it. Because our currency is currently weaker by the time you put it in parity terms with most African countries. So it might be an opportunity for us to also expand our non-oil exports within the sub-region and take advantage of this current free trade regimes, the FCFTA. So we could sit down and look at how do we take opportunity in this. Because, I mean, if there's anything that this weak exchange rate should have engineered, it's the explosion of the non-oil sector export. And I think that's already, the numbers are out there to show that non-oil sector, oil sector has grown significantly. For oil, we know that we do not control the factors significantly on the price point, but we can control production. And to be credit, this government has expanded production beyond what was there, I mean, beyond what the last administration did. So by the time you look at it now, not much has changed in the dynamics, and that's what I just saw. Crop production is still huge, like you're showing on sales. Trade is still where it is. We've seen a bit of growth in real estate. Telecom is still where it is, and oil is still where it is. But we have seen new additions that are able to say we are properly now accounted for the economy better than what it is here.
But many would also talk about our growth and our population growth. When they are not at par, it means that many are falling into the poverty line, and that's what it means. What percentage are we supposed to grow that will start to get the sort of inclusive growth that will be all encompassing so that we expect? Don't also forget that we are targeting a $1 trillion economy on the side.
We have to look at it properly. That our $1 trillion economy is far off at this point. Let's not lie to ourselves. I mean, you're trying to possibly quadruple the economy.
Yeah.
You would have to get close to like a 10% annual growth, consistently for at least a decade before you'll be able to get close to that kind of thinking. Currently, our population growth is put around 2 to 2.1%. That means if we don't want a decline in our GDP per capita, that's the minimum we have to expect it to grow in a sort of way. So our GDP per capita also has slumped significantly. We were somewhere around 2,800, 3,200, depending on whose calculation you were working with in 2014. Based on these numbers, our GDP per capita is around $1,050 or $1,100. So it shows that there's a significant drop in the quality of life of most Nigerians, if we take that numbers there on the face value. The other thing you also be able to see is that the growth in the agricultural sector, I don't think it has performed as it should be. But just the advantage is that you have forestry and livestock. I've always wondered why our livestock component of the GDP was very, very weak. I mean, those are the past calculations that have been done. If you look at even if we had 25% or 23% was the agricultural component to the GDP, the crop production was taking around 80 to 90% of that, and I just didn't feel that is reasonable. But now they have been able to incorporate forestry, they've been able to bring in livestock, which also shows that, or doesn't mean that the share of the agricultural component has grown. I'd still believe that for the level of our development, we're still underperforming significantly in agriculture. So it's a step forward in terms of documentation, but it's also our grim reality of the kind of policies that we have pursued in recent years. When we had the last rebasing, it was really, really an exciting period. Let's not forget that rebasing, it took our entire GDP to around $509 billion in 2014. So look at us now, we moved from $509 billion in 2014 to currently around $244 billion. It shows a significant drop. And it's just simple. We have not been invested in productivity as it should. If we had pumped oil as the level that we should have pumped oil, maybe we have done enough oil and gas reforms and we had pumped oil and solved all these security issues, we would have had a stronger currency than we had right now. If we had reformed the levers that could accelerate our non-oil exports and maybe make us more competitive, we will not have the exchange rate that we have at this point. So I feel like people that say the worst is over, yes, it seems we will definitely turn a corner over time, but it requires a whole lot of work on fiscal discipline and on technocratic ability. I hope the government is able to deliver that effectively.
What do we tell investors now at this time? Investors would definitely use these figures to relate with Nigeria. They've been waiting for this. The World Bank are part of all of this documentation and all of that. So this is out now. What more should we be expecting? I'm particular about investments coming into the country. You talked about the oil and gas industry. We've seen some executive orders, but we are yet to reap the positives of those investments coming in, the Bonga investment and all of that coming in from Shell and some more coming from the oil and gas industry. So are we going to wait until the next rebasing exercise before we start to get the fruits of all of these positives?
To be honest with you, we're talking about investors, and I think this is a big upside because we all want Nigeria to work. There's no glory in dropping depressing talk about Nigeria when we have to market it. We have to look at the optimistic side of things. And my optimism is that it says you should be fearful where people are greedy, and you should be greedy when everyone else is fearful. The time when people might feel like, oh, these numbers have dropped, we are the fourth largest economy. And this is also this is a time for that there's an upside on the horizon. That's just what it is. If a stock is dropped from $20 to $10, you know that the fundamentals are still strong. You know that stock can go back to $20. So you invest in when you hit the bottom. There's an opportunity in Nigeria that maybe the number shows that we're at the bottom, but the upside is great for us as a country. That's just what I would say. The upside is great because the fundamentals are still there. We have a very robust economy. Young people who have a high consumption habit, so definitely consumption is not our problem. The other part is also we have a lot of young people that we can be put to work if we really invest in their skills and their capacities. We also have to look at the fact that we are getting ourselves out of some bottlenecks, structural bottlenecks around maybe a subsidy, or even the exchange rate divergence. So definitely, and we are also now accelerating fiscal discipline. So I think as a look at Nigeria, you'd be like, I don't want to go from a place I'll move from 100 to 105. I want to go to a place I can move from 50 to 100. And I think that's the major reason why you should look at Nigeria at this point. It's a tough one to get investment in this climb because we also understand how these embers of nationalism is crippling global investment. But honestly, this is also time for Nigeria to take itself out there into the market. Let's market ourselves. The president also has to do some things right. Why don't we have ambassadors? How can we be talking about how do we want to raise investment and we don't have strong foreign, the highest level of foreign relations presence in most of the critical countries? We don't have ambassadors in the US, in China, in India, in Brazil, in Russia. The critical global development environment. So it's also important that the federal government should sit down and look at its foreign policy and bring everything on board because it seems grim with this number, but it also means that the upside can really, really be great if we get it right.
Indeed, getting it right is very important. Before I let you go, sectors like real estate, telecommunications, ICT, they're also not doing so badly when you look at this rebasing figures. But what more do you think can also be done to leverage on these sectors?
I think real estate, that's properly, has been well accounted for. I think oil refining is where I feel that, and I know this started in 2019, so it might be a challenge. But I think by the time we take another 10 years, hope we don't stay more than 10 years because the standard is that you rebase the economy every 10 years. It took us a while to do the last one. So I hope by 2029, I'm sure by the time we do a refinery and we look at all the work that Dangote has put in, that will be a significant jump in our GDP. That might also mean, for importation, that might have some mild drop there, but at least we'll be able to fully account for what Alhaji Dangote and other partners are doing within oil and gas, or the refining element. But I think the real estate is well accounted for. My biggest joy is the livestock. I don't think we've adequately documented livestock production, the GDP calculation, and I'm happy that that has come on board. I feel also in the informal sector, especially with trade, we've been able to bring that also on board. But also, if you look at it, trade is still where it is. It's around 18% of our GDP. So there's been no significant divergence from that. But apart from that, even the telecom sector, it's around 7%. It used to be around 7%. So I don't think that much has changed, definitely. But I'm happy with the real estate, with the growth that we were able to find in the real estate. Yeah.
Mr. Shewonigwinde, I must thank you so much for your time. I understand the time differences and all of that, but for you to spare out this time, really don't take it for granted. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.